Hi, good morning. Welcome to another episode of WolfeSound podcast. I just woke up and I wanted to release this video about boundaries because uh, I uh, I think a lot of us don't know how to set healthy boundaries, including myself. I learned it after 40 years of existence, and it's a very long time. It's very dangerous not to have healthy boundaries. Um, and um, and I learned so much of it from my pets and my cat and um, a couple of friends that I observed and watched how healthy their boundaries were, and I became a student. It was trial and error for me, and trying to understand why they say no to certain things and how they say yes. I really respected that so much. So it was funny because I've known about the existence of something called boundaries since childhood, but it was more about somebody else's boundaries um, applied on me as a kid. For example, somebody else has, for example, healthy boundaries, and they say, no, you cannot do this, or I need some space. Um, don't disturb me from during this time because I'm working, for example. But other times, people would have unhealthy boundaries, and they can scream it at you, they can push you, they can do all kinds of crazy stuff, and those are the kinds of healthy boundaries. But you still learn that boundaries do exist, that we cannot just run amok and overstep somebody else's boundaries. So to reach this point of learning about boundaries and having healthy boundaries and then applying them fully literally took me about 40 years. And I hope it doesn't take you that long. It just happens to so many people, and we can see it. A lot of people don't have healthy boundaries. So either you see it in flaky people a lot, like people who say yes to everything, but then they disappear, and it becomes kind of passive aggressive because they're not able to just say no or to tell you the truth. They believe that if they set a boundary, that they're gonna lose you, not realizing that just saying no upfront and having healthy boundaries solidifies relationships. And then you see it in other people who are angry or aggressive when they tell you no or when they push you away, and then you know that it's kind of it's a pushback. It's their way of pushing back that maybe somebody had overstepped their boundaries before, not just somebody, like over the years, and then this is their reaction to it, is that no, I'm going to push back, I'm going to be aggressive about it before people take advantage, even if the situation doesn't require that, but it's already ingrained. So let's talk about how to set healthy boundaries. Okay, let me look at my notes. So boundaries are the glue that keeps all virtues intact. One of the best things I've heard not too long ago is that you cannot be kind without having healthy boundaries, and there is no love without having healthy boundaries. And it took me a while to think about that, and it's very true, because if we don't apply boundaries, we're going to attract people that are going to take advantage of it. And we set ourselves up to become resentful of people that take advantage of our boundaries, or we become aggressive and then we also push people away. So the only way to have healthy kindness and love and all of that stuff, we need to have the healthy boundaries. So most of us have been taught that have not been taught about healthy boundaries. We just observed others and observed our parents or our guardians as children. We observed other kids in school who knew how to apply boundaries better or worse than us. So So the environment where we were raised plays a huge part about how we develop these boundaries. So for us to acquire virtues such as courage, empathy, integrity, and authenticity, we have to create a set of boundaries that are healthy. Let's see. Unhealthy boundaries are not positively adhesive, which will not maintain said virtues, meaning that in order to be at peace and kind and loving and have a real connection and honest, authentic connection with people, the healthy boundaries will be adhesive, will bring us together, but the unhealthy ones will push us away from each other, and it's not authentic. So remember to enforce your boundaries on yourself also, not just on others. This is something I learned later after I was teaching myself or asking others to advise me how to set boundaries with other people. I realized that I have to apply these boundaries on myself too, because sometimes we behave in ways that do need boundaries. Procrastination, that was a big thing for me, and I think it was fear. There was a lot of fear associated with it. Too afraid to write or publish or even start this podcast. So the procrastination needed a boundary, saying that, okay, there's this set of hours where I just have to power through it and do it. Like I cannot keep postponing it anymore. That's a boundary. A boundary is I sleep early, I eat healthy, I don't self-abuse, I don't repeat old tapes. I have to start to confront certain demons and release them. Also, the boundaries are a way of having self-discipline, and it's trial and error. Again, it's not perfect from day one. It's difficult, like difficult but not impossible. You train yourself every day. Then you have to also apply it when you apply it with yourself. It becomes even easier to apply it with others, because now you know where you stand, who you are, what you want, what you stand for, all of these things. So there are different types of boundaries. We have emotional boundaries. For example, number one is my emotional well-being is a priority, meaning that if I apply it on myself, I don't allow myself to just stew in a negative emotion for too long. I have to deal with it and release it for my emotional health, but also the boundary when it's applying to others, that I don't tolerate any kind of emotional abuse. So that's simple. It's simple to know the boundary, and then you take it from there and apply it. A lot of people will push back. They will not like you setting boundaries, especially if you're new at setting boundaries and they're not used to it. But you're just gonna have to stick with it and watch the relationships either get so much better than before, or if somebody was already abusive anyway, regardless of your boundaries, they're gonna leave. And then that's also a positive thing. Number two is no tolerance for any form of abuse in my relationships. I guard the gates to my life, and those who enter are free to go. I set a boundary with myself that once you have a stronger sense of self, you stop chasing people or negotiating with people to stay in your life. The gate is open, but also with boundaries. You let people in who you feel that are okay to be in your life. You don't, obviously, nobody lets everybody into their lives. So you make your choices, but also keep that gate open for them to leave at any moment. So they also don't feel imprisoned by you. It's okay. Let people do whatever they want to do. And then at least then you will know what they want to do, if they want to stay with you or not, and why. You don't always know why, and that's fine too. And sometimes it's very, very painful when somebody decides to leave, and you don't, especially if you don't know why or nothing in particular happened. So you're just gonna have to process that by yourself sometimes, and it can take time and it can linger, but also you need to sort it out somehow with time. Number 3, I take responsibility for my emotions and will not look for someone else to make me happy. That's a huge thing, because one of the downfalls is in my past relationships, for example, I noticed my happiness was very reliant on the presence of the other person or the way they treated me. So they also had all the power to leave me feeling upset or miserable. And that's not okay. We have to take responsibility for our own happiness. And again, I'm not saying that we're not going to get upset. In relationships, it's bound to happen. Sometimes we get hurt and everything. But that doesn't mean that we throw this responsibility on the other person. It's our thing. Our happiness is our thing. It's our responsibility. Number 4, I do not dismiss my emotions when they arise. I will tend to them with kindness. A lot of times, because we're human beings, we're going to have all kinds of emotions. And instead of suppressing these emotions, we have to sit with them and sort them out and see their source. Sometimes their source is not the present event. It's something much older than that. It could be a certain tape running in our heads. So we have to sit with it and be kind, not judgmental, which is difficult. Sometimes we do something stupid and we become the biggest attacker on ourselves. And honestly, it's never as bad as our minds could make it out to be. It's not fully a bad thing to self-criticize sometimes. It's just for the sake of maybe learning that, okay, that was not okay, or this emotion sucks or whatever. So, but we have to also just use it for that purpose, to learn from it, not to self-abuse forever. And 5, I will not allow my negative emotions to overstay their welcome. Once you sort out your negative emotions and you process them, then a boundary has to be set. That's it. It's sorted. We resolved it. We're not going to jump into self-pity forever and fall in love with this state of this emotion, because self-pity can feel pretty good. You get depressed and then you lie down, you cover yourself with lots of fluffy things, and then you feel sorry for yourself, and it could feel nice. And that's why a lot of people spend the rest of their lives feeling sorry for themselves, or it can take a long time before we get up and do something. So maybe enjoy that part for a little bit, but then you have to get up and say, that's it. We worked through it, and that's that. Okay. Now, keep just an end quote. Keep the entrance door guarded and the exit door open. Like I said, keep yourself on guard when you first meet someone new. Figure out, once you know who you are and what you want, you're gonna see very quickly. If you see red flags, you don't need to keep investigating. And I'm talking about blatant red flags, or ones that you know where they're going to lead to. So you don't have to keep testing that person who's clearly not okay from the very beginning with you. So keep the gate guarded. And once you allow someone into your life, keep the exit open. Let them be free. If they want to go, that's fine. That's their journey and it's their choice, and their freedom to do so. So that's also a show of respect to somebody else's boundaries. And sometimes you might hold on to their shirt and try to make them stay and stuff. But you have to realize that it doesn't lead to anything good. Spiritual boundaries One, my time for solitude and reflection is sacred. It's okay to, it's not just okay, it's almost necessary to have alone time. Because in that alone time, that's when you can reflect and connect with something, with your higher self, or you meditate and or be creative, whatever you need to do, but you need that alone time. Number two, I commit to meditation and will not allow anyone to interrupt me. Even if you have just 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes is fine. And you know what? When I say that, it's because I'm addressing probably somebody who doesn't meditate, but for me, meditation is a way of life. It's a complete commitment to the moment. Like right now, I'm meditating by focusing completely and fully with this podcast right now, and I'm not thinking of anything else. And that's a form of meditation. And it's a very nice way to be, because you get to be in this moment. You get to focus on the goals and what's important. And sometimes when you use meditation, the transcendental meditation, that complete peace, that complete emptiness is everything, because then you feel so present, you feel so clear, and you feel so energized. Okay. Three, I will not allow others to intimidate me into their beliefs or energetic vibrations. The first half of it is easy. The second half is not so easy. A lot of people try to force you to think like them and to believe what they believe. And we see it in all kinds of people fighting each other over whose faith is better. All roads lead to Rome. And I think people need to just keep certain things personal, and believe in what they want to believe without forcing anybody to convert anybody into their way of thinking, no matter what it is. And then the second part of this is I will not allow their energy to impact mine. And that's a bit tricky, because no matter who we are and how good we are at meditation and all of that, the environment is bound to overpower you if you continue to exist in a negative environment. I don't care. I want to bet, like, if Buddha himself lived in certain circumstances, he will handle it probably much better than I would. But no, eventually it's just, it doesn't work this way. We do have this oneness and everything, and at the same time, so when you witness something for too long, or when you're being subjected to the same thing for too long, it's bound to overpower you and change you. So it cannot not happen. I don't believe it does. So the environment and the other people's energies, it's very important to be selective with the energy around you, because also it takes so much effort. Even let's say you succeed in preserving your own energy and not letting that have imprint on you, it still takes some effort for you to self-protect. And that way it's equivalent to living in survival mode. And that's exhausting. It's very, very, very exhausting. What we don't want to just survive. We want to carve the path, and we want to see the path, and we want to move forward. But if we're too busy trying to survive, it's impossible to also simultaneously be busy trying to create and answer a call. Okay. Now we have physical boundaries. I must take care of my physical health. That's my own boundary. Is that if I see something is harming me, then I have to kind of make the effort to stop it. I tried that with some things. I was able to do it. Other things I couldn't yet. So it's still a boundary. It's still a boundary that has to happen. Like, no drinking anymore, no coffee all day long, stuff like that. No processed foods. That's just my boundaries. And now I'm working through the smoking, which is awful, but just still working through it. So yeah, you have to set a boundary that you don't just consume what you want because that's what you want, and ignoring the signals in your body. Two, I listen to my body and honor it. That has so many layers because the body also will tell you when you're in a dangerous situation. Your stomach turns, you feel uneasy around somebody, or an opportunity that looks so amazing in the beginning, but something in you is saying no, like there is an aversion to it. I listen to that because it just never fails. It never fails. Number three, I do not tolerate anyone invading my physical space. It's amazing how many people invade your physical space, and I'm not just talking about like men getting too close to women or vice versa. I'm talking even on the street. Like these days, sometimes I'd be walking and somebody wants to go somewhere and it's as though you don't exist, and they walk right through you. They push you. If you're holding something, and then they don't turn around to apologize. It's very strange sometimes. Or you're at the ATM and somebody is right breathing down your neck, and you're just trying to have a private moment with your ATM and Visa, right? It's just some people don't have a sense of space. The only time this is funny is when you're dealing with pets. They're not expected to have a sense of space, and it's actually funny. But with human beings, it's not funny at all. So I make it a point that somebody does not invade my physical space. And sometimes I would freeze. It happened several times before with somebody just gets too close, or someone I barely know, or they allow themselves to sit in a very uncomfortable space. And then my initial reaction would be to freeze. And a lot of people actually freeze in the beginning because their mind is not really processing what's happening. And if there's a past trauma associated with that, then the freezing is even longer. It could take forever for the person to let it sink in that this happened. So it's very important to make sure that you respond or react immediately. Number 4, I will not allow anyone to shame me for my body. I will love it and respect it. I owe it to no one else. People shame, like fat shame, skinny shame, whatever shame. Shame is a very toxic emotion, and this is if we are created looking a certain way or moving a certain way, it's not up to anybody else to make fun of that. And you know, it's part of, I don't understand like how you can shame somebody for the way they look, for the way they were created. And it's the idea of like this whole thing with the standard of beauty or the standard of weight. It's affecting so many people, and they feel forced to look to or to maintain a certain weight, and that weight is literally nothing. It's a shame that somebody would bully somebody because of their weight or because of how they move and what their face looks like and whatever. Okay. Number 5, my home is my sacred space. I only trust people. Only trusted people are allowed to enter. The home is the place where we find peace. It's our shelter from the storm. It's our comfort. It's the place where the home health will impact the health of the rest of your life. When you are sleeping well and having peace, and you love your home, you love being at home, and the environment is where you can be completely yourself. You can be in your pajamas and connecting and relaxing and doing the little things that you love. It's your space. And if that space is healthy, the rest of your life will be healthy. If that space is hell, the rest of your life will be hell. Don't tell me that you're gonna sit in a chaotic, crazy home and then get dressed and go out to meet people and work and stuff, and that energy will not be part of you, part of your energetic body. The home is critical to somebody's success out there in the world and their overall happiness, their overall health. So I feel really heartbroken for anybody who has to endure this war zone kind of homes, the abusive marriages, and or overbearing parents that can beat their kids or whatever. It's because some people don't have a choice. Honestly, some people, and that's why a lot of kids, when they run away from home, the streets become their refuge over the home, and you can't blame them. So also in a marriage, it's very complicated. Some people, if they share kids, it's very complicated, and we're going to talk about that, about certain things in terms of these kinds of dynamics. Okay. Mental and psychological health. I will feed my mind with good things, no junk information. Oh my God, we're so overwhelmed with information everywhere. We are having an information overload, and when we have too much information, I'm not saying information in itself is bad. I'm just saying when it's overwhelming all the time, receiving information, we don't have time to process the information or to apply what we're learning. So this information overwhelm can diminish our ability to actually learn and apply things. On the other end of it, if somebody doesn't have any information or is not learning something, it's on them, because we are also in the age of information, so it's very accessible. Number 2, there is no tolerance for negative self-talk and circular thinking. Yeah, a very tough one, because we have to catch it. Sometimes we're aware it's happening, and sometimes we're not aware it's even happening because it's like a little whisper. So the way I combat that is that I write, I include in the daily routine, I am sentences. I am peace, I am health, I am love, I am gratitude, I am grace. And these things, like when you write it down every day, then we slowly change the tape that may have this horrible self-talk. And it still comes up, the self-criticism. It's part of that. It can happen, but at least you can recognize it sooner and catch it, or at least don't believe it, because that inner critic is a little too dramatic and doesn't always tell the truth, right? Okay, so number 3, I honor my quiet time, and I will have zero tolerance for noise. That's my own personal boundary that, like, you can apply to some people like noise. But I don't. So so I put it as a boundary. I don't like noise around me. I do need my quiet time, and if I need some noise or to have a change of pace, then I will go to the noise, but I don't want to bring it to me in my home. Number 4, I do not entertain people who are abusive or play mind games of any kind. at the first sign of mind games or somebody trying to gaslight me or being flaky, I'm gone. I used to be so weirdly patient with so many different mind games that people would play, people that are never on time or people that keep flaking, they keep arranging things and it's sometimes even their idea, but then because they can't say no because they have weak boundaries, they don't want to cancel, they think, oh, I'm going to look bad if I cancel, so let me just shut off my phone, disappear for a few months until this person forgets, and then I can walk back into their life. I don't know what kind of logic this is, but it actually makes things worse, and it's extremely annoying. I don't even know why at some point in my life I put up with it, and I think maybe I know why. It's because I didn't want to lose the person, but it's not like I had that friendship to begin with. They can be lovely, fun people, but my God, that was exhausting. And also it's not having a sense of your own worth, your time and your own self-respect. Your time is just as valuable as this flaky person, for example, or somebody who tries to make you feel crazy or look crazy or deny things that they did, and they just treat you like crap, and then they just pretend that it never happened. Okay, so now there's social boundaries. I expect to be treated with respect. So whatever respect is for you, if it's too much, you know, if your rules for to be respected are unreasonable, then it's going to be very easy for you to feel insulted, slighted, right? So you have to figure out if your list is reasonable. For me, somebody who's disrespectful is somebody who is overly controlling, like trying to control every aspect of me, somebody who blatantly insults me, somebody who gossips about me behind my back, somebody who's never respectful of my time. These are things that are not okay. Any kind of abuse, verbal, emotional, mental, that's not okay. But some people feel disrespected if it's like ridiculous things, like if, for example, they make a suggestion to you and you decline to take it. So they take it personally as if you disrespect them. Then these people will feel disrespected a lot of the time. They also can feel disrespected if somebody doesn't I'm sorry, they can feel easily disrespected if you don't call them every day and ask them before you do something, and you don't even actually, you're not in a relationship that owes them that. It's very strange. Like I've heard so many ridiculous rules for somebody to feel respected, that it's gonna be just so easy for them to be disrespected, and then they're gonna lash out on you, and you don't need that. So you have to be expecting a reasonable way of being respectful, to be respected, to be treated with dignity. Number two, my circle is small. Trust must be earned. I do have a small circle of friends, and I do know a lot of people. And actually, I like so many people in the extended circle. But my small circle are the people that I actually trust. I feel the most comfortable with. I feel that we are in more in harmony on more levels than others. Maybe also some people I love very much, but they moved away. But my circle is small, and my circle of trust is small. Also for the simple fact that I don't like the idea of, even let's say there are 20 trustworthy people, I'm not gonna go to all 20 and share everything. I would just choose one. One is enough, 1, 2 people, because then it's just too scattered. Okay. And the trust must be earned part is because a lot of people just go like, oh, trust me. I don't know you. Why should I trust you? Or if I don't trust myself in a certain situation, why should I hand over that trust to you? If I don't yet trust myself because I don't know what the hell we're doing or what the situation is. So no, trust has to be earned. And just because somebody is close enough to you doesn't mean that you owe them trust. They have to prove to you that when you tell them something, they don't go around and say to someone else. You have to trust that when they give you their word, they actually follow through. So trust is earned. It's not something that is a given just because somebody is in your life on any level. All right. Now, next is number 3. I must treat myself and others with respect. If I fail to do so, I must make amends. That's a boundary on myself. I like the idea of being respectful and to respect other people. And if I make a mistake, I want to make amends. Even if it's too late to make amends, then at least course correct and don't do it again with anybody. There are times I'm sure that I yelled at someone or I was disrespectful. And to this day, I'm not happy. I'm not happy that I did that. Some people I would apologize to, and others it's something like someone who's not accessible, and now it's on me to just make sure that every day I practice that. Am I treating the other person kindly? Am I treating myself kindly and with respect? So it's still a learning process in general. For it takes, everything is a learning process. So sometimes we're gonna get out of character, and sometimes we're gonna say things that we're not supposed to say or behave in a way that we're not supposed to. It wasn't indicative of who you want to be as people, especially as we grow and know better. So it's very important to apply this, to respect ourselves and other people at the same time. Okay, so number 4, my social life is a place for joy and idea exchange. I love sitting with people that they are, I'm not saying joy that they have to be joyful all the time, or that I have to be joyful all the time, but within our authenticity and real connection and sharing ideas, being creative, and instead of sitting in circles that just gossip and be bitter and complain all the time, with my circle, we want to share ideas. We want to actually connect with each other, or we can just goof around. But it's not revolving around gossip or complaining about our lives all the time. So I like that, and there's a joy in that. And even when life throws challenges on us, it's still joyful because it's authentic. We can be there for each other as well, but we're not built on toxic social interactions. Okay. 5 is zero tolerance for gossip, slander, or bullying. It's so it is very toxic. The whole gossip culture, the slander, the bullying. This needs a whole episode just for that. So I will prepare one. But it's actually a no tolerance, zero in my social circle. And then we have professional boundaries. I expect the highest standards for myself, of myself. That means that if I get a job, I have to do my best to give it my 200%. Otherwise, then I'm not worthy of that job. I have a certain standard that I like to work in, and I'm not, obviously, I also have a boundary not to be a perfectionist, because I used to be, and that's just awful. It causes procrastination, and it actually makes the work not that great. So what I mean is, I like the idea of to be committed to the work and to really strive to make it the best that I can. Number 2 is my life's work must remain at the forefront, meaning that the calling that you were born to do needs to take the front seat of your life. Don't bleed into building things for everybody else and ignore your calling, because the universe will not even allow that. It's going to keep putting obstacles in your path until you're back onto your own. Number 3, I do not accept work I don't love. This is very true right now, because I learned that the more, if I love the work, I will do a great job. If I don't love it, then it's not fair for me or for the person I'm doing the work for. So I have to love it, or find a way to love it, and collaborate with the other person. And this whole energy of putting love into the work actually brings the abundance and brings more people that will trust you, and you trust them. It's very important to infuse that love into the work. Otherwise, it's going to show. It's just doesn't, something is missing, you know. Number 4, I know my worth and the value I add to others. I refuse to settle for less than I deserve. When we don't have confidence in ourselves, and which happens along the way until we start to gain more and more experience, we don't know our worth. And sometimes people don't tell us how good we are. And even if people do tell us, sometimes we don't believe that we are, because it's our own work. Especially if something you're very talented at and it comes so easy, it's easily for you. You don't believe that it's that good, because for you it was so simple. Now, because of that, not realizing the worth of and the value of your work, you don't find the courage to ask for what you deserve in terms of compensation and credit. So now that I grew up, I started to know my worth, not with everything, with the things that I'm now comfortable in, but other things I don't know yet. You know, it's a journey. But for the things that I know that I do well, then I will no longer settle for less. I will no longer give away my work for free, as it did for many, many years. My time is valuable enough, and my experience is valuable enough. And that's okay to know and to admit. Because if you don't know it, yeah, no, you're not going to grow, and you're not going to be valuable to others either. So it's okay to ask for what you deserve. All right. At the tail of that, number 5, I do not allow others to take advantage of me. And a lot of people will, unfortunately, a lot of people. And then they're not going to be there when you're starving and can't afford your own food and medication, or to feed your kids and your pets and all your loved ones. No, and so people will take advantage of you if you're not aware of your worth and if you don't ask for what you deserve. So basically, because you diminish your own value, you're telling them that it's okay to take advantage. So stop that. Ask for what you deserve. I'm not saying more or less, for what you deserve. Figure it out and ask for it. And if somebody says, no, it's too much, then say, okay, then there are other people that will do the same thing for less, the same job, but it's not going to be the same quality, right? So you pay for somebody's experience and somebody's how good they are at what they do. And if they can't afford it, that's fine. Sometimes you can lessen the price for certain people. If somebody is close friend or somebody who genuinely cannot afford it, but you want to help them out, then great. But that's at your own discretion. It's not an obligation. Okay. Number 6, I expect people to remain professional and not drag me into personal dramas. There's so many people also, especially in a Middle Eastern culture or actually in a lot of cultures, where in order to justify that they didn't do the job that they promised to do, they would tell you all kinds of stories about what happened to them that prevented them from doing so. And all these other things they talk about are very personal that you don't need to know. Other people, if they ask you for a service, but they can't afford it, for example, so then they don't pay you, or they say, okay, I'm going to pay, but then they never do. And then they tell you, oh yeah, I had to go to the hospital, or my loved one had to have an operation, or I lost this or that. Sometimes it's true. People do go through stuff, but sometimes people use personal dramas just to tell you why they didn't meet the deadline, or do the job, or actually pay you for the job that you did, right? And the problem with that is because it's a professional setting, so you could go back and tell them all about your own personal dramas as well, but we don't want to do that. So my boundary is, as soon as somebody starts to include their own personal drama into a conversation about work and deadlines and things, they're just like, it sounds like excuses. I don't want to drown in somebody else's personal issues, and I don't want to have to share my own personal issues, and I don't let my personal issues prevent me from doing the work. So sometimes we can talk openly to each other. Can we push the deadline? Can we do this? Can we do that? Honestly, and that's okay. But I cannot stand it when people start to tell you very tall tales that a lot of it is not even true, and then make you feel bad enough that you don't go and ask them for what they owe you, for example. Okay, so your boundaries are your sole responsibility, and they're unique to you. Okay, you have energy and time. Energy is our life force. Time wasted is wasted forever. Now that you have your own list, make sure you have fitting consequences for boundary breaking. For example, if you don't tolerate someone calls you names, the consequences can be cutting this person off. Some people like to use insults and they think it's funny instead of calling you by your name. If they call you out of your name and you tell them once, you cannot do that, and they keep doing it, then it's completely fair to cut them out of your life. Some people, you limit your interaction with them. You have to communicate your boundaries clearly and in a healthy manner. Make sure the person understands the consequences, because sometimes we don't share the consequences, and we don't even share the boundary. And then we get upset and cut somebody off without telling them, and that's not fair. So you need to clearly, in a healthy manner, communicate your boundary and the consequences of what's going to happen if the person doesn't honor that boundary. So if you call me out of my name, I'm going to have to just stop dealing with you, or I will just hang up, or you're out of my life, and you have to follow through. So you have to understand, remember, no one can read your mind, and it's not fair to expect them to. So how you communicate your boundaries is very important. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about the signs of unhealthy boundaries, and I help you with certain 9 points of unhealthy boundaries, and then we're going to move on to the emotional gym after this episode. So remember, one man's deal maker is another man's deal breaker. Create your own boundaries. All right. Have a great day. Set healthy boundaries and be good to yourself.